you are able to enroll for the final exam at the end of the year. So just around, say, September of the year, if you decide you would like to have a report from Brainline, then you would apply to enroll for the end of the final exam, and then you would write the exam with us, and you would submit according to our time schedules. And in the very end, what you will do is you will receive all your reports for that specific exam. Remember, we never, for the final exam, issue memos. We mark it internally, and based on our marking, we then issue a report card. Now, what happens with Express when you've been with us? We ask you to please to submit that Express to us so that we can moderate. And what's the reason for moderation? We need to see that marking has been done on average by the standards that we require, and then we issue a report based on that. I think that's, in short, Liesel, what the Express is all about.
Excellent, thanks, Colleen. Okay, the next question, how does testing actually take place? So, hoe vind toetsing plaas per kwartaal? We have another panelist who sneaked in. Karen is also here. She's the Director of Assessment. So, the Directeur van die Assesserings. Karen, will you answer that for us, please?
Yes, I think the first thing I'd like to just double check is what grade this person is referring to, just to be able to answer them best. But then while we're waiting for that answer, I think one of the things that we can look at, because it is really important for all our students in all our grades and all our clients, is to understand that there are obviously different sections of assessment. It would be whether it would be something written, whether it would be an oral, whether it would be a practical. So while we definitely also do have students or clients, potential clients, can I call you clients instead of potential clients? That sounds good. And people who would like to know how it works in the high school. So let's use the basic idea of the high school. Looking at grade 12 and at the National Senior Certificate, it is still required by UMLC, and it is still required by the universities that students write exams using pen and pencil. Exams have not gone over into a situation where people just merely type on a computer or where there are only multiple choice questions. There are some school leaving certificates from overseas countries which do allow students to just write with multiple choice. We do, however, know that those do not give direct access to university or tertiary studies and need to be followed by at least 2 to 3 years of additional schooling before tertiary becomes possible. So the first thing I'd like to say is that we work with a pen and paper basis. So what would happen, and I'm not going to talk COVID situation, I'm going to talk normally. What happens is that the student gets a profile on our online system, and on the time and date of a specific assessment, if it is an exam or a formal assessment that needs an invigilator, the paper becomes available, as well as then with that paper, the password becomes available. That is downloaded in the presence of the invigilator. It is then printed out. The student writes it on paper. It is scanned. Lately, one doesn't even need a scanner anymore. Most families have, or invigilators have, at least one smartphone, and the apps are absolutely awesome. They don't jam either the way the scanners do. So that is scanned after being signed by the invigilator and the student that has written this, not only saying that this is the person who has completed it, but that it has all taken place under invigilated circumstances. This then is submitted online onto our system. Should it be a task, something for which there is a longer time, that is downloadable long in advance, is completed and then submitted again with the student then the time signing to say that this actually complied with all our criteria for the authenticity, etc. The tests and anything that is done under invigilated circumstances, those have to be done on a fixed timetable. So just like at a school where one would not be able to write your test or exam on the date that you prefer, but you would actually be writing it on a date that is set by the school so that we all know everybody's writing the same test, nobody's had the test in advance, etc. It works exactly the same with all those formal assessments. The tasks, etc., there you have just a final date. You can submit it earlier, and then you can submit it up to the evening of that final date. In terms of orals, our students do their orals online, very similarly to what we are doing now. So if this was an oral and I had to present my oral to you, I could be reading at the moment, where you would then see the book that I was reading from. The students hold up the book, identify themselves, and the teacher then is watching on the other side. So even their presentation modes can actually be assessed. In terms of oral tasks and not the oral exams, the oral tasks would be then pre-recorded by the student themselves, and perhaps with the parent helping them. Again, we can both hear the voice and see the student. So we would sometimes then say, we need to see at least from your middle upwards, or we need to see the whole of you, so that we could see, even in some of our drama presentations, so that we could actually see the whole body language. So that would be done similarly to what we're doing now. One can use a Zoom recording. It makes the recordings relatively small, and it's quite easy because the students are required to have something like either a laptop with a webcam or a desktop, so that they then actually stand up and they can see themselves and they set the recording. So that type of thing is done with recordings. With regard to practicals, depending on the subject that we have, some of the practicals, for example, consumer studies in grade 10 and 11, the students are allowed to do those at home, again, recording them. Once again, Zoom on the laptop, awesome to do it with. And the Zoom account is free if you're only going to use it in a one-on-one situation. You don't have to have paid Zoom to be able to record long times. And then the next part would be in grade 12. So in grade 12, there is the compulsory PAT examination. And for that, they would currently, we only offer this in the Pretoria area, but we do link our timetable very carefully to ensure that students then have, I'd like to call it like a workshop of assessments, so that they come to Pretoria. Should somebody have, for example, life sciences and consumers and drama, they'll only come to Pretoria once then to come and do all those pracs in a block, so that there's just a one set of traveling. In terms of something like art, the final artwork, the year work in between, the students do, and they keep sending updates of how they are progressing, photographs, videos, and so on. They keep sending through to the art teacher and keeps giving consistent feedback, a lot of feedback there. And then the final artwork, they have to, so for example, it's a painting, it could be a sculpture. Sculptures, we always say think carefully, because you've got to get this to Montana in one piece at your own risk for the final assessment. So what happens with that is they work on the portfolio throughout the whole year, where they do their journals, etc., etc. There's feedback continuously between the teacher as well as the student then, again with videos, uploads of photograph, etc. And then the final artwork they actually have to bring to Pretoria, and that then in the making process is quite important, that they have to have somebody, and it should actually not be an art teacher. So using the neighbor's garage or somebody's house that has a study that isn't used, or a studio, is actually ideal, because they then have a logbook. In the logbook, it's indicated when they did their practicals, which times they came in, which times they came out, and the artwork remains at this venue. In other words, they can't get up at 12 o'clock at night and decide they feel like painting, because it has to be invigilated and signed off every single time. At a brick and mortar school, a traditional school, this artwork would remain at the school itself. They wouldn't actually take the artwork home with them. It would remain at the school. For life and physical sciences, we do everything with simulations. So our final assessments for the practicals are done with simulations. And what's very important with the IB, and that comes back to what Colleen mentioned just now with regard to rote learning, is that the IB is not that interested in whether I can do an exceptional experiment and how accurately I can do it, but rather in if I understand the aim, the variables, how I would adjust my experiment to ensure that I get better results. So even if my results really aren't that great, that's not the point. It's to understand what I'm working with and to make sense out of the results I get, draw graphs which are meaningful. We're all seeing the graphs and so on going around now with the COVID virus, and it's so much easier just to have a glance at the graph and you immediately know, is it flattening or is it still exponentially climbing? And that's the type of skill that these students are taught. For life science, there is a practical exam, which is part of the final IEB examination. It's not even part of the year mark. That one is also done in that combined cluster of or compact workshop of doing all the practical exams. So I think that answers it in general. So it's timetables, download, do, upload. So typically, right, now it's COVID, what do? I can't take my child and get an independent invigilator. So what we've done is we've brought in the concept to say we understand that independent invigilators are now difficult, because I am at home and I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm working at home, my child's got to do this, and I can't let my child go off to the neighbor without breaking the law, or get into a car, go to work and let one of my colleagues, perhaps, who has registered as the invigilator, do the invigilation. So what we do now is we give the parents permission to do so, as long as they complete the invigilation course by going through the manual and doing the online test. It's a multiple choice test, getting the multiple choice test right, knowing what the rules are, and then again, recording this. The recording part to us is very important. Assessment only has meaning in two ways. The first way that it has meaning is to benchmark my child and to understand whether my child is on par with what would be expected at this age and grade, whether my child is able to cope with the curriculum and will be able to cope with the final examinations. And secondly, to guarantee that my child is going to get a valid report, or then at the end of grade 12, a senior certificate. If there is any question mark about the validity of this, and it just becomes a piece of paper written out by some insignificant venue, it is absolutely meaningless. So if I, as parent, submit the marks that my child has done in my presence, I've marked, I enter them on the system, what guarantee is there of any validity? By law, if one looks at the ballot bill, and Colleen will talk to you a bit more about that, and one looks at what the government is looking for, what they're saying is that you as parent would be homeschooling your child, this is going more to the lower grades, and that you need to use a service provider who makes use of qualified teachers to assess the work. And that is exactly what we do. So we place a very high premium on ensuring that our assessments and our processes ensure the validity and the reliability of these results. We need to be able to prove to the IAB that our results are as meaningful as those in a school, so that they can say to Lucy, which overall looks at all the qualifications and assessments, that they are prepared to vouch for us, that our students were not unfairly either advantaged or disadvantaged. I think that gives quite a good idea. Colleen or Liesl, do you perhaps want to talk a little bit more about how the assessments work in the junior school? Perhaps Colleen.
Yes, let me put it this way. For the junior school, we are not so strict on assessment, especially for grade 1, 2, and 3. We find that the little ones are quite scared if somebody else whom they do not know suddenly needs to sit with them. Point 1 and point 2, our assessment for the little ones, grade 1, 2, 3, if I may start there, actually can be done over a period of 2 weeks. So it becomes impractical for an invigilator to attend to a learner to do assessment over a period of 2 weeks. And why do we do it over such an extended time? It is important for us that the learner is not tired when he does the assessment. And it is important for us that they do the best that they possibly can during the course of the assessment. For that reason, we are not so strict with invigilation. For grade 4 up until grade 7, I would advise parents to decide when would it be appropriate to use an invigilator. And I think what Gardner said about the recording of such of assessments during the assessment time actually is a non-invasive, not scary thing that I can use to start making my child used to the fact that somebody is going to sit with him during an exam. But for grade 8, 9, and going up until grade 10, 11, and 12, that's where we become a little more strict. And Karen has quite adequately and elaborately explained to you how do we work with assessment there. I see a few questions here, and maybe that links up to what we're discussing right now. If my child is in grade 1 up until grade 7 and it comes over to Brainline, what happens to term 1 and term 2? Well, the answer is quite straightforward. We actually exempt the learners from there. which means that the balance of the assessment for the rest of the year actually contributes to the final report at the end of the year. And we exempt them, in other words, from term 1 and term 2. So they don't need to do that. However, does that mean I don't have access? Of course not. You have access when you enroll with us right now. You have access, although we exempt you from the test, tasks, and assignments for the first half of the year. You have complete access to all of the tests, tasks, assignments, resources, and everything else. In other words, we don't give you a half-baked product, we give you the full product at the discounted price. So you can go back and you can revise to see what was done in term 1 and term 2, so that you can catch up only in those areas that you feel it is required for. I just saw something else. Let me just quickly go back, if you will allow me, that I picked, and it is in line with this as well. How many hours a day would a junior school student work on schoolwork? My daughter is in grade 5. Zaldine, that depends on you and your family. When we did homeschooling, actually we did homeschooling whenever we wanted. That doesn't mean that we were undisciplined. What we did was we had a set time in the morning when we started, and then we had a set time when we finished. And my children was able to, if they felt that they needed to work a bit longer, they needed to work in the afternoon, that was fine. But we also had a reward system. We worked very hard from Monday to Thursday, and on Fridays we did something that the kids that they felt like doing, something educational. But the short answer for that is, for the lower grades, probably around 3 hours. But that does that mean I need to sit from 8 till 12 and get things done? No, not at all. If you want to space it, you might have a child who does not concentrate for very long at one point in time. Then sit for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or half an hour, or whatever the case may be, and do a bit of work. And then you can do a bit of work a little bit later. So fit it within the lifestyle of your family, especially now. I know that some of our moms and dads are working, and you need to juggle school with all of these other stuff. So it becomes a bit of a thing around planning. So plan it around what fits into your family. That's with regard to the numbers of hours spent. Let me see, there was another one. Wanneer studente vra, kan hulle die onderwysers skakel? Reinhard, jy kan, maar vir die laergrade vind dit ons dat dit nie nodig is nie. Ons vind dat jy 'n tutor regtig nie nodig het nie. Jy sal sien as ma of pa of toesighouer, wat ook al die geval mag wees, dat die werk is so eenvoudig en mooi gestruktureer, dat jy dit baie maklik sal verstaan en baie maklik jou kind daardeur sal kan help. Baie selde, as 'n tuiskoolma het ek gevind dat omtrent hier by graad 10, het dit vir my moeilik geraak, want toe begin die wiskunde wat hulle daai tyd doen, is nie meer die wiskunde wat ek kon doen nie, en ek kon nie my kind meer so lekker help nie. Toe het ek die hulp van 'n tutor bygesit, maar nou moet ek ook vir jou bysit. In daardie tyd het Brainline nie ons aanlyn klasse gehad nie, en dis die wonderlikheid van ons Brainline klasse vandag, as 'n volledige virtuele skool. Ons vervang nie al die klasse wat jy normaalweg by 'n skool sou gehad het nie. Wat ons wel doen, is ons identifiseer daardie sleutelplekke wat moeilik gaan wees, en dit is dan wat ons adresseer in ons virtuele klasse. Dit help nie vir ons om klasse van 7:30 tot met 1 aan te bied, en daar is nie tyd vir jou om saam met jou kinders 'n lewe te leef, of saam met jou kinders 'n lekker akademie te doen, of dit te beplan rondom jou lewe nie. Dan hou ons jou vas in 'n oggend, en dit is nie waaroor tuiskoling vir ons gaan nie. Tuiskoling gaan daaroor, ons gee vir jou ondersteuning, ons gee vir jou rugsteuning, en ons gee vir jou bronne, sodat jy makliker deur hierdie proses kan kom. Ek hoop ek het daardie enetjie geantwoord. Graad 7 gaan minder aanlyn klasse hê, en graad 2 nog minder. Graad 1, 2 en 3 gaan ons klasse eintlik maar oor ondersteuning vir ons ouers daar buite. So ons help julle om julle kinders te help. Maar die werk self is regtig van so 'n aard dat jy met gemak daardeur sal kan kom. Kom ons kyk of ek nog 'n vraag hier vir myself gemerk het. Maybe Crystal, I can quickly address yours now that I'm paging through everything. Does Brainline provide homeschool materials if the parent wants to do homeschooling themselves? Crystal, I'm not quite clear what you mean by that. Liesel, maybe we can ask Crystal to just maybe elaborate audibly what she means by that.
Perfect. Okay. I see there is a hand up as well. Derek, ek weet nie of jy vir ons iets wil vra nie.
Hi Liesel, kan jy my hoor?
Ja, ons hoor jou.
Dankie vir die geleentheid man. Jong Liesel, ek het so vroeër in die jaar met julle kontak gemaak. Ons bly in Botswana. Huidiglik is my kinders in 'n internasionale skool wat Cambridge syllabus gebruik. Apparently is hulle vereis dat die kinders daar's 3 korvakke wat hulle moet doen: Engels, wiskunde en wetenskap. Okay. Nou die skole was omtrent vir 2 maande toe hier by ons gewees. Hulle praat van hulle wil die skole oopmaak nou in die 1 Junie. Ons as ouers, nou praat ek nou van my en my broer met sy kinders. Ons is nie gemaklik daarmee om die kinders skool toe te stuur nie. So die vraag wat ek wil vra is, as dit nou sal kom, want ek het 'n seentjie wat staan R2, staan R2 is graad 2 en graad 4 is. En my broer het 'n graad 2 seentjie ook. Die vraag wat ons het is, sal hulle nou kan oorskuif na julle toe en hulle grade vir die jaar kan klaarmaak? Dis die eerste een. Tweede vraag wat ek het is, omdat al die skole hierdie kant Engels is dit moontlik om hulle skool dan in Engels as eerste vak te hê, Afrikaans as 'n tweede vak tipe ding met hulle vak in Engels in. En dan die derde ding is, ons het 'n onderwyseres wat fisies elke dag by die kinders gaan wees vir die homeschooling. So ons minds is opgemaak vir homeschooling vir die res van die jaar vir nou. Met 'n onderwyseres wat fisies 2 of 3 ure by elke kind sit en fisies saam met hulle die werk doen en goeders. Is dit dan moontlik vir die onderwyseres dan ook om direk met julle te kontak vir eksamens, toetse of al hierdie goedjies? Soos dat julle nou weet met die COVID, die grense is toe en hulle praat van nog 'n 6 maande wat ons toe is. Ons gaan nie uit Botswana uit kan gaan nie. Dankie.
Dankie. Colleen, wil jy wegspring en begin dalk?
Ja, absoluut. Die antwoord is ja. Ja op al jou antwoorde en ek dink jy is baie bevoorreg om iemand te hê wat julle kan help, want ek dink dan kan jy werk en sommer 'n oogie hou hier langs die kant. Dit is toe ons kinders klein was, het ons baie dieselfde tipe ding gehad. Ons het ons eie besigheid nog maar al ons jare gehad en ons het 'n juffrou gehad, maar die juffrou was hier reg langs my. So ek kon mooi sien wat aangaan. Wat betref die kurrikulum is dit absoluut 'n wonderlike geleentheid. Van Cambridge af na die Brainline pakket toe dink ek gaan jy soemloos kan doen, die Engelse aanbieding ook soemloos. Ek dink net jy gaan vind dat die struktuur wat ons gee om die onderwyseres te ondersteun, gaan baie meer hier by ons beskikbaar wees vir jou. Jy kry byvoorbeeld by ons al jou studiemateriale, so jy hoef nie daaroor te bekommer nie. Vir graad 1, 2, 3, ek het ergens gehoor en miskien het jy graad 2 of daar rond, gaan jy sien die werkies is so mooi beplan. Dit sê week 1, maandag, week 1, dag 1, week 2, dag 2. Nou dit beteken nie, as ek kom by week 30 en my kind is eintlik nou besig met week 20 se goed, nou is ek agter nie. Dit is bloot net 'n raamwerk, dis 'n gids, dis 'n struktuur om vir jou aanduiding te gee van wanneer jy waar moet wees. Alles is reeds daar vir haar klaar. Dis die lekker vir die onderwyseres. Sy hoef nie te gaan rondkrap vir materiaal en 'n kurrikulum te probeer saamstel nie. Dis reeds gereed vir haar. Vir die kleintjies is daar dan nou 2 eksamens wat jy kan kies om aan deel te neem. Duidelik gaan julle dalk nie nou die Junie maand eksamen wil doen nie, dit is alles reg, maar sy kan dit steeds aflaai op die pakket, is daar heelwat beskikbaar om te kyk hoe lyk so 'n eksamen en sy kan dit doen as 'n voorbeeld. En dan kan julle net die November eksamen saam met ons doen aan die einde van die jaar. In Engels absoluut ja, jy is heeltemal reg. Kan jy net gou vir my sê die ouer enetjie, wat was dit, graad 7?
Colleen, hy is graad 4.
Graad 4. Pragtig.
Dis reg, ja.
Vir graad 4 het ons einde van termyn 1. Ons het Junie wat nou is, dan het ons einde termyn 3 en dan het ons ook 'n eindeksamen. Daar kan julle ook dalk besluit wat ons noem ons skeld hulle heeltemal kwyt van alle ander eksamens en hulle begin dan basies aan die begin van die 3de termyn. So hulle kan lekker vakansie hou, maar weer eens soos wat ek voorheen vir jou gesê is, alles is beskikbaar vanaf die eerste dag met al sy bronne, met al sy take, werksopdragte wat jy kan teruggaan om hersiening te doen. So ja, jy begin dan aan die begin van die 3de termyn en dan skryf jy nou eers eksamen aan November maand van hierdie jaar.
Colleen, net vinnige vraag. Ek verstaan wat jy sê van die kwytskelding, want kom ek gee net vir jou geskiedenis. Ons kom van Morletta Park af in Pretoria, so ons was in Jalaras Park Laerskool, streng Afrikaanse skool, so die ouetjies is oorgesit na die nou in die Engelse swembad ingegooi, as ek so kan gooi. En ons het vir hulle ekstra, by Kumon ekstra Engels en wiskunde ook gekry. Sê vir my eksamen so goed vir die oukies. Gaan hulle fisies in Pretoria moet kom skryf?
Ja.
Gaan hulle dit online doen? Of hoe werk dit? En dan aan die einde van die jaar kry hulle, as hulle die eksamen skryf, kry hulle dan 'n rapport. As dit sou gebeur dat dinge verbeter en hulle kan terug gaan skool toe, laat dit aanvaar sal word.
Ja, alles, maar ek wil net gou eers vir jou vra, wat is hulle moedertaal?
Ons is Afrikaans.
Okay. Wil jy graag hê hulle moet in Engels skool gaan, of hou jy van moedertaalonderrig?
Man, Colleen, kom ek sê vir jou so, op hierdie oomblik het hulle geen Afrikaans vir die jaar gedoen nie. Hulle het Afrikaans as 'n buitemuurse aktiwiteit vir die Afrikaanssprekendes 1 keer 'n week vir 20 minute.
Okay.
So daar word glad Afrikaans in die skole aangebied in Botswana.
Okay.
Want ek het vir my vroue gesê, as hulle sou terug gaan skool toe, sal ek nog steeds graag wil hê dat hulle, al doen hulle net by die huis, Afrikaans dan. Weet so homeschool. Want ek wil nie ons moedertaal weggooi nie.
Ja, kom ek sê vir jy so, vir die kleintjies gaan dit nie vir my regtig oor waarheen gaan hulle skool nie. Dit gaan vir my eintlik oor om 'n basis te skep. Kom ek praat vir jou uit persoonlike ondervinding en ek hoop Karen sal met my saamstem. My suster se dogter, sy is heeltemal Afrikaans natuurlik en haar man is heeltemal Engels. En Ninian ontwikkel toe nou probleme waar sy begin het om haar taalstruktuur te meng, omdat hulle Engels en Afrikaans deurmekaar, sy het 'n bietjie hier dit en 'n bietjie daar dat. So my aanbeveling vir jou sal wees is dat jy 'n keuse sal maak met die kleintjies en my keuse sal wees moedertaalonderrig. En die rede daarvoor is hulle taalstruktuur, die gebruik van die taal, spelling, lees, spel, alles word gevestig in hulle moedertaal, dan word dit vir hulle maklik om 'n tweede taal soos Engels by te bring, want dan verstaan hulle die struktuur van taal. Daar's 'n legio ander redes ook hoekom party mense moedertaalonderrig ondersteun tot en met ten minste graad 4, 5 of dalk 6. Dit hang af van wat pas in jou huis. Dan bring jy dan die Engels by en dit is absoluut perfek reg om die Engels by te bring. Maar dan sal my keuse was, ons het in hoërskool oorgeskakel en ek dink Rosemary het uiteindelik soemloos Engels gedoen graad 10, 11 en 12 en dit het al soos 'n handskoen gepas. So vir die ou kleintjies beveel ons altyd moedertaalonderrig in, kies 'n taal en leer jou kinders aan daai en dan maak jy jou tweede taal so sterk as moontlik. In Brainline kan jy selfs, as jy sou wou, Afrikaans huistaal aanbied as 'n matriekvak, maar ook Engels huistaal aanbied as 'n matriekvak. Jy mag, daar's nie 'n probleem daarmee nie. Die minimum vereistes is huistaal en een eerste addisionele taal. So bespreek dit met jou vrou, besluit wat is in die beste belang van jou kind, maar my aanbeveling sal wees onderrig in jou huistaal en dan besig jy jou tweede taal en maak hulle sterk in Engels, sodat wanneer jy sien hulle is gereed, kan jy hulle soemloos oorskakel en dan kan jy hulle Engels aangaan, hoërskool, geen probleem nie. Ons ondervind nie dat daar partykeer bietjie probleme kom as jy jou tale, as jy nie 'n hooftaal kies waarin jy jou onderrig doen nie. Maar bespreek dit in julle huis en besluit dan wat jy uiteindelik gaan doen. Wat betref rapporte, absoluut. Jy kan jou rapportjie, ons is al 30 jaar in die bedryf en in 3 keer in 30 jaar het iemand gesê hulle aanvaar nie ons rapporte nie, waarop ek Samir die kind se portfolio bymekaar gemaak het saam met Karen, dit aangebied het aan die skool en die kind is soemloos in die skool in toegelaat. So dit is by uitsondering wat ons kry dat 'n rapport nie aanvaar word nie. En ek kan nou al dadelik vir jou sê, 'n kind wat geweier word in 'n skool as gevolg van hierdie virus stories, sou ek vind moet sommer reguit hof toe gaan. Want dit is net vir my onaanvaarbaar. Maar in die 30 jaar is ons rapporte by uitsondering in 3 gevalle en daarna is die kind absoluut aanvaar. So jy kan dit met vertroue, kan jy aanbied by watter skool hulle ook al wil heen gaan.
Colleen, jy sien my probleem wat ons punt is graad 1 en graad 3. Maar toe hulle nou geëvalueer is en goed is al gesê, hulle wiskunde is baie sterk in puik, maar Engels is hulle nie gelukkig met die op standaard nie en hulle moet hulle jaar oordoen.
Okay.
En ek was glad nie ten gunste daarvan nie. Dis hoekom ons nou by 'n klein skooltjie is waar hulle aanvaar was en dis hoekom ons nou die ekstra Kumon klasse het en al daai goedjies. So
Ja.
ek wil net verhoed dat dit nou weer gebeur in die einde van die jaar. Ons weet jy weet ons is nie vir homeschooling. Een ding wat my afsit van die homeschooling is, en ek sê dit met jou is, ek voel die kinders moet tussen ander kinders kom en goed, maar ou kan daarmee ook nou weer saamwerk, hulle sportklub toe vat, hulle kan gaan swem, hulle kan gaan rugby speel, hulle gaan cricket speel, en tussen ander kinders kom. Maar ja, om terug te kom, ek wil net nie weer in daai situasie sit waar hulle vir my sê, hy moet maar weer sy graad 4 doen, hy moet maar weer sy graad 2 doen, want my oudste seentjie het ADHD, dit vat baie om hom te help om sy werk te doen en goeders. En nou werk hy hard vir die jaar en dan sê hulle vir my met sy graad weer doen.
Ja,
En dis wat ek nie wil doen.
Ja. Ek dink jy het die beste ding gedoen wat jy moontlik kon deur jou autoriteit as ouer te gebruik om te besluit tussen die beste belang van jou kind en daar hulle dan in 'n klein skooltjie te sit. Ek dink is 'n uitstekende situasie vir hulle. Ek dink jy het 'n baie goeie ding daar gedoen. Ek dink jy het ook 'n goeie ding te doen te besluit ek gaan hulle sterk maak in Engels en hier is die maniere en die bronne wat ek gaan gebruik om dit te doen. Ek dink jy het 'n uitstekende besluit daar geneem. Ek kan ook vir jou sê uit eie ondervinding is daar vir my gesê en vandag is my kind ons finansiële bestuurder. Dis aan die einde van graad 1 kom toe sê die juffrou vir daar's fout met haar woordeskat. En Karen en al die forums sal vir jou sê daar's absoluut niks fout met my kind woordeskat tot vandag toe nie. En ek het ook besluit dat iemand anders se sering van my kind was nie 'n geldige en 'n korrekte evaluering van wat haar akademiese vermoë is nie. So daar maak jy my hart warm vir my sê jy die kind se ter harte geneem en jou besluit geneem. So ek wil jou aanspoor daarin om dit wat jy gedoen het, die klein skooltjie opset, om jou kinders te versterk met die addisionele bronne, die kieme wat jy gedoen het, ja, absoluut. Maar weer eens gesels in jou gesin oor die belang van moedertaal en maak jouself sterk met kennis. Gaan doen 'n bietjie navorsing en kyk wat is die impak van moedertaalonderrig en neem dan 'n sinvolle besluit daarna.
Baie dankie Colleen, ek waardeer jou moed en jou hulp.
Groot plesier.
Dankie Colleen. Karen, Karen, there are a few questions that you said you would like to answer. There is one that I would just like to answer while I am busy. There was a question about grade R classes and 'n vraag oor graad R klasse. I actually started an exciting new venture at Brainline. Ek is baie opgewonde daaroor. I actually offer classes for grade 1s and grade R's en dan graad R en graad 1 apart, then also for grade 2s and 3s en dan graad 2 en graad 3. Where it's a Monday morning, a 20-minute session via Zoom, where I actually invite students to come and join me just for a fun, how are you doing, what's news, chatting about the weather, and then also a bit of an educational twist, where we either learn a new song, we move around, we learn it, jump around, we count in numbers. So that's the lessons that they are actually planned for grade R at the moment. I hope that answers that question. Karen, over to you.
Okay, I think there's so many integrated questions. And I think one of the things I see immediately is Johan had a few questions. One of them was he asked how the assessment for art would work. I did explain it in English just now, so I'm just going to briefly go to Afrikaans. Johan, ek hoop ek het vir jou die antwoorde gegee van die kunswerke. Met ander woorde, dat daar die interaktiewe aksies die hele tyd is met die kunsonderwyser. Hy is wonderlik. Die kinders is almal verlief op hom. En nie verlief soos in met hartjies nie, verlief op sy vakkennis en sy passie vir die vak. So hy maak hulle verlief op die vak, heeltemal. Hulle is verlore. Ek dink die res van die onderwysers wil hulle partykeer net voel, skies kan hulle net so 'n bietjie lief raak vir ons vak, soos vir kuns. Hy's uitstekend met sy werk met hulle. So die assesserings gaan dan wees soos ons nou genoem het, waar dit met foto's ensovoorts is, en dan die finale produk is dan werklik die produk wat dan by Brainline ingedien moet word. Products that have to be handed in at Brainline, where there are, for example, packs and so on, and we need the actual files. Those products would then be delivered. At the moment, we've put all of that on ice due to COVID to make it easier for everybody. So at the moment, students would scan the submissions, send them into us, upload them the normal way so that we've got proof of them being completed, and then keep the final versions with them. This happens with tourism's files, it happens with consumers, it's happening with EGD. There are a number of subjects where this happens. and they're keeping them. The final thing is then normally that these files are either delivered at one of our offices where we have in Umhlanga, in KwaZulu-Natal, in Stellenbosch, or in Woodmead, or then in Montana in Pretoria. Alternatively, they are then couriered to us. There's always a closing date, obviously, so we make the date such that it normally covers the courier time, and we then use the date of the courier and the tracking number to ensure that everything was sent off in time. So at the moment, because obviously our offices are also closed, we're working from home. So what we're doing at the moment is not to expect the students to send anything to us. The couriers are also really expensive at the moment. So we're asking that everything we kept at home, and we only will get that later on in the year. We hope once we've moved down a level or so and things are a little bit easier. So I trust that that one will answer what Johan had asked there. The part about your son having completed grade 12. This is Elsjonse van Rensburg. He said, my son completed grade 12 in 2018. He's currently a full-time student at an aviation school and would like to redo physical science and maths to improve his grade 12 marks. If he only takes one subject per year, approximately how much time is required per week per subject? And is there just one enrollment cycle per annum? And do we provide tutoring, personal or virtual? And then there were quite a number of questions a little bit later down, which also asked about, are we online or homeschooling? I think I'd like to give my perception on that. I think the two go together very closely. If you're in an online school, it means that you're not going to a brick and mortar school, you're working from your home. And if we go and look at what the law requires that if my child is still of school-going age, as my kind nog skoolpligtig is, en dit is tot op 16, tot op die einde van graad 9, wat er in eerste kom. So if my child is up to grade 9, then by law, my child has to attend school. We all know that there are people, and we read it more and more lately, who feel that they would like to determine what schooling these kids do. I also saw a question about the CAPS Alliance. So it's very important to understand where the government's input comes into this to ensure that students are registered and that they know that these students are not being denied an education. Het is belangrik om te weet dat 'n kind die reg het tot onderrig. Ek as ouer kan nie net besluit, ek gaan 'n kind in die wêreld bring en dan gaan ek besluit, weet jy wat, ek is 'n wetenskaplike, ek is mal oor fisika, chemie en wiskunde, en dis nou maar so, en my kind gaan van geografie en van biologie en van geskiedenis en alles niks weet nie. Ek gaan hom in hierdie kokonnetjie groot maak, want dis my kokon wat ek van hou. Dis nie regverdig op die kind nie, en dit is eintlik teen sy menseregte. So it's really important. And that is where the registration part comes in. The minute my child is older than that school-going age, they've got a grade 9 or they're older than 16, it means that I wouldn't have to register them at the Department of Education for any schooling. Now, at the moment, the only registration that there is homeschooling. There isn't a registration at the department to say, my child is online schooling. And I think at the moment, there's a very, very clear or a very obvious sort of overlapping between online, home, and virtual. And it's sort of at that point that I think one doesn't really know which one to call it. It's done from home, so it's homeschooling. How I approach it determines whether it remains an eclectic, I do it my own way, I grab the curriculum and do it my own way, or whether I decide to take what everybody likes to call a boxed curriculum. I don't see it as boxed at all. I see it as a structured curriculum, one where there is structure because there is a final goal, which is a specific certificate which shows that the child has met the benchmark requirements. That to me is not a box. That is telling me the same as I can say whether I have a degree in a certain something. It says that within the requirements, I have met them. And that is exactly what happens here. So the CAPS curriculum up to grade 9 is the minimum a parent can do. There were questions about, can you take just some subjects? Yes, indeed, you can. Can you mix subjects and content in? Yes, indeed, you can. In fact, that is what the true homeschooling parent would do. The way Colleen explained it just now, with the topics in the book or the work that we're working on at the moment are something to do with acids and bases, but they don't actually say, did you know about vinegar, and did you know what's going to happen if you add that to some baking soda? And now, because it's my area of interest, I say, let's take this further. Let's go and do an experiment in the kitchen, and then let's add hot water or heat the acid by putting it in a water bath and explaining why the water bath. That is true homeschooling. But if I'm not skilled in those areas, I need help. And although I am a qualified mathematics teacher and I have maths right to the end of my university degree, I would never at the moment say that I could homeschool or virtual school my own child in grade 12. I just haven't taught the syllabus long enough or recently enough to be able to confidently say I can do it all. And that is where it comes into the next level, that when it gets to a point that becomes more and more difficult, we need as parents support. And that is where the homeschooling then starts sort of swinging over. I'm in the home, but it's an online or a virtual school. If I want to be the true homeschooling parent, I go for the express package that Colleen explained. It means that we give you the basic assessment, which by law you have to be able to put your child through schooling and to prove that they have done the minimum that is required by law. And the rest of it I'll do on my own. I'll choose my own textbooks, etc., etc. We will tell you which is a prescribed or a suggested textbook, and we suggest them for specific reasons. On the other hand, if my child is in grade 8, 9 and up, and I know that I want my child to get a national senior certificate, my child wants to go and study in South Africa at some other university, wants to go overseas and study, I need that green Malusi certificate at the end of grade 12. Then I'm going to follow a more structured approach. Some people prefer to start following the structured approach from grade 10 onwards. That's also okay. It depends on your situation. And then we offer the two options. Homeschool, do it on your own, express. Or online/virtual school, do it with us in the IEB aligned product and the IEB aligned product, which means we determine when the work is done. We determine the minimum. Again, of course, one can enrich it. The more enrichment, the better. And obviously, one by then starts to enrich the areas that the child is interested in and not necessarily just mom and dad. So we tell you what to do. We tell you which assessments need to be completed. We give you a timeline in terms of what needs to be done by when, what will be covered in each exam. Our exams are set, as Colleen said, to satisfy the IEB requirements, so that if you look at one of our grade 12 papers mid-year or a test paper mid-year and you go and look at a test paper from another IEB school, you shouldn't notice a difference in the levels. And we are moderated on that extremely intensively. And when I say we, I say all the IEB schools. There is no other exception to what they do with us. They give us a few concessions, but we've had to prove that we can actually cope with them and that we have solutions for them before I go ask those concessions, like some of the pracs, for example. So very important to remember that it's this mixed crossover, but I again have a choice. So if I decide to online school with Brainline, and I like watching the differences because I'm a true educationist by birth. I don't even think by studies, just by birth. I was born a teacher. So I love reading all the different options. And I see there are a lot of people who are going into the idea that an online school replaces a brick school. Brick and mortar is the real word, phrase. Online school vervang eintlik dan 'n baksteen skool. 'n Aanlyn skool sou beteken ek moet 8 uur in die oggend agter my rekenaar sit en nou moet ek my klasse in die volgorde wat hulle dit het bywoon tot 2 uur en ek het my breuke wanneer hulle sê. Die feit dat ek 'n oggendmens glad nie is nie, Maar in die middag en in die aand uitstekend werk word nie geakkommodeer nie. It doesn't accommodate it. So what Brainline does as a cloud school is to say, right, we take all the support we give you and we put it in the cloud. And we say, when would you like to access it? If you have a child who concentrates for short little whiles and wants to do something in the morning, but then by 10 o'clock wants to go horse riding, and I know that telling my child, darling, sit in front of your laptop, you will now attend a maths class, is not going to be meaningful, then we don't say that. Then that lesson is recorded and is available so that after riding the horse, when she's invigorated, feeling good, positive, she can come back and come and watch it. And that is where the homeschool / cloud / virtual takes over a little bit online. Online is more structure as a school. The only difference is my teacher's on the screen, my teacher's not in front of me as a human being. So I hope that answers a lot of the questions I think we'll go through. The one about doing different subjects and about the amount of time it takes. One has to take into account that if you're looking at a grade 10, 11, 12, you're looking at a number of hours at school, which would vary per subject from 4.5 to 6 hours per week. And that would only be your class time. So we present at the higher levels, we present between 2 to 3 hours of class time. Depending on the subject, there'd be lots of questions about English Afrikaans. Afhangend van die vak is dit baie keer 'n gemengde klas, presies wat ek nou net gedoen het. Ek het nou 'n bietjie Engels gepraat en nou gaan ek oor na Afrikaans and then I repeat the fact that it is mixed in English and Afrikaans, especially when there's terminology. We try to mix that as well as possible, but it's really difficult. So many of the teachers will actually have their work marked for them in different colors so that they know in their prep what language they're going to be speaking next. In some cases, we're able to split depending on the numbers of students, etc., and the availability of our teachers and their timetables. We are sometimes able to split the English Afrikaans classes completely. And we always take into consideration the requests of parents with this. So that would be my class time, about 3 hours. And then without, let's say, if I was looking at maths and physical sciences, I would say without a total of about 10 hours a week, it's not a meaningful process. The content in maths and science is just so much. And one also has to remember that for the physical sciences curriculum, the whole of grade 11 is re-examined in grade 12, but it's not covered in grade 12. Graad die fisiese wetenskappe, graad 10 is die boubasis en dan graad 11 en 12 se vakinhoud. 11 handel mens af. Dis voorvereiste vir van die dele van 12. 12 doen jy baie nuwe werk en aan die einde van die jaar skryf jy oor al 2. En dit word nooit weer gedoen nie. Daar is 'n volle jaar se nuwe werk. Die graad 12 fisiese wetenskappe, grade 12 physical sciences is really a 2-year long curriculum. So if somebody decides they want to repeat, and that's in science, it's more so than in maths. In science, I would say they're probably going to be spending a little bit more than 10 hours, because if they're going to join us just for grade 12, how are they going to pick up the other 50% of the content? So somebody like that who really wants to get good marks, because you don't repeat a year, jy herhaal nie 'n jaar as jy nie regtig goeie punte wil hê. If you're going to join us to get really good marks, it's also a good idea to consider joining us for both grade 11 and 12 so that you have the resources that you need and then can use them at your leisure when it suits you to do so. Tutoring, personal or virtual. The virtual I've explained, approximately 3 hours per week in the seniors and 2 hours per week in the juniors up to grade 9. In the junior school, I think you have mentioned, Liesl, but you can perhaps just mention again. I did see another question about that as well. There were questions about what happens with enrollments now. And there was also questions about how does my child know whether they're coping at the moment, yes or no. So the coping at the moment, yes or no situation, and the enrollments at the moment would literally be a case of making a choice whether you would like your child to write the grade, whatever they are, in a high school area specifically, to write the assessments for grade whatever exam in June. There are 3 options. They don't write them at all, but you're going to get the question paper and marking guidelines a little bit later on, and you can assess them yourself. Alternatively, it could also be something like we have, you decide that you're going to let them write, but you don't want them to count. So you want us to mark them so that you can see at the level that we mark at, and all our markers are qualified teachers and experienced markers. At the level that we're marking, how would your child do? So that's really benchmarking it. And the third option is to say, my child must write, you must mark, and I want to see those marks count. As an educational person, I would take that third option out. And I would say, why put this incredible stress on your child? Because our exams are imminent. We've done some of the pre-assessments, like some of the pracs and so on already, but they're absolutely imminent. Why do this? There's so much trauma on the go at the moment and uncertainty. I don't want my child to sit down to write an exam, starting off thinking, what happens if I can do nothing? So I would say, you know what? We're going to write these exams. I'm not going to let them count for you. And that's where you would contact Liesl. We're not going to let them count, but we want to know, in terms of Brainline and in terms of the work that you've covered, what do we need to do to assist you? What extra do we need to ensure that we get either from Brainline or elsewhere to get you on par with all the other students and where you should be? So my choice, if it was my child, would be write the exams, but put them at ease, that you're writing them so that they can see what you know, so that we can use this assessment to ensure that you catch up. Assessment should never be a stick to hit somebody emotionally, to say, see, you aren't okay. Assessment is always a support medium to benchmark and see what needs to be done. That's it. So that would be my suggestion, and that's how we would do the benchmarking at the moment then. I think that would sort of say yes, and that answers the one about writing the exams. There was a question about our grade 12 success rate, just something very briefly, en ons 'n vraag oor ons graad 12 slaagsyfer. That's something which is a very difficult thing to look at, because schools pride themselves on 100% pass rate. As somebody who has taught in schools and has quite a long experience in the teaching environment, in managing managerial positions for a long time, I don't know if you really know what happens at a school. End of grade 11, John doesn't do well in maths. I really want him to do maths, and he wants to do maths. That's even more important, because he doesn't really know what he wants to do. He's going to take a year off, he's going to have a gap year, hy gaan so 'n entjie wegbreek, en miskien het hy dan wiskunde nodig, ek weet nie. Maar op hierdie stadium is sy wiskundepunt hier by die 32 rond. These maths marks are lower in the 30s. And what does the school do? The school says, you know what, he's probably going to fail. And we don't like this idea of having a fail on our system, because then it's going to break our 100% pass rate. So they say, John, you have no choice. You will be doing math lit at the moment. Or if there are a number of sections, they say, it's fine, John, you can stay as, come to school, parents pay the full school fees, but they deregister John as a school going student, no matter whether it's from the IB or the Department of Basic Education. So they deregister the student, and what they do is they say, you can write, you come and write with all our students, everything normal, accepting that they registered this individual as a private student. So if he passes, well, great, that's awesome. And if he doesn't pass, well, thank heavens, that's not on our pass rate. That's where the 100% pass rates come from. At Brainline, we pride ourselves to say that nobody is excluded from writing as a Brainline student. We do not let them write as individuals on their own, as independent students. They write as Brainline students. We pride ourselves that at the end of last year, and we started off roundabout in the 60s, and we've built our processes, our support, etc., up to the point that where we take often halfway through the year when nobody else wants to take a student, we'll take the student and we'll work with the student. And at the end of grade 12 last year, we had an 85 point something % pass rate, which is a milestone and something that we'd really hoped to achieve. And we didn't really think we'd get there yet last year. And we were there. So it's awesome. I'm really proud of what our students do. And I think a large part, and I think Liesl will agree with me, a large part of that is because they feel part of it. They don't feel excluded. They're never not good enough to be part of us. We put everything in with them. So yes, last year it was about an 85% success rate, but remembering that we had many students who had already been pushed away by other schools. And we said, come, no problem. And if you don't succeed this year, it's a yet. You haven't succeeded yet. Maybe you'll succeed the year after that. So that answers that one for you. Is Brainline recognized to enter university? Absolutely 100% yes. To enter the university, you can have different options. You can have the Cambridge that somebody spoke about earlier. Jy kan Cambridge hê, jy moet die verskillende vlakke en vakke en kombinasies hê, afhangend van watter vlakke jy het, verskillende hoeveelhede ensovoorts. Jy kan met Cambridge Universiteit toe gaan en dan in Suid-Afrika kan jy met 'n Umalusi nasionale senior certificate universiteit toe gaan. You can go to university with the Umalusi National Senior Certificate, and that is what you will get at the end of the time with Brainline. Umalusi is the governing body that actually looks at all the accreditations, looks at all the bodies and decides whether or not the achievements are valid and whether a certificate will be issued. There are only 3 grade 12 examining bodies or National Senior Certificate examining bodies. The one is the Department of Basic Education. Departement van Basiese Onderwys is waar al die staatskole is. The state schools are there, the government schools. Then there is the IB, which is the Independent Examination Board. Dit is waar al die privaat skole is, die Crawfords, die meeste van die Kiro's, soos Colleen gesê het, die often we see St. John's, St. Albans, those schools. And then finally, there is Sakai, which is more based on the purely homeschooling parent who wants nothing to do with what they would call a box, or I would call a structured curriculum. We are then with the IEB, and at the moment there are only 2 distance providers, and we are the most online of them all, and we have the longest reputation, who work through the IEB. That's it. Everybody else is with Sakai. And at the end of the grade 12, you all end up with the same green certificate. So you end up with your same basic knowledge. What is different then is your skills. The IB focuses, as Colleen said, on the skills of application of knowledge and not rote learning. So our question papers look different. And because of that, the universities love IB students. We always hear them saying, and we often we attend conferences, we listen to what the universities are saying. And we've all heard the massive dropout rates at university. And that comes from rote learning. Because at university level, there is no rote learning. Nobody is going to ask you to draw a locust. Somebody is going to ask you why the locust mouthpiece has the shapes that they have. So it doesn't help I can draw it and I have no idea why it looks the way it does. IB would rather focus and say, this is the mouthpiece. Please consider why and discuss it and explain it. The IB also goes very much into a situation where instead of saying there's a right and a wrong, to say that there are different opinions. Is something like genetic modification of crops a good idea, yes or no? Some people are going to say yes, some are going to say no. As long as it is not just an emotive decision, as long as it is scientifically based. Some look at all the science and still feel yes. Some look at all the science and still feel no. And depending on how that is motivated, they will be marked. But that emphasis comes in the IB. Universities love IB students. So it's not just a yes, it's a very big yes. Die huidige skool inlig en 'n kind ingeskakel doen ons die departement notifications nie glad nie. Weer eens Darrell, dit hang af dan van die grade. Julle sal self, soos Colleen vroeër gesê het, maar Colleen sal vir julle die skakels gee en die inligting gee waar julle dan daai inligting met die departement moet deel. Soos ons ook gesê het, at the moment, I really think the department is just going to be too grateful if they know that students are actually being schooled and not only being schooled, but being assessed in a structured environment. And not just mom and dad who are deciding to de-school for a year and have fun, or unschool and break away. The department wants to know that the curriculum minimum is being followed. If I unschool or de-school and follow the minimum curriculum, awesome, nothing wrong with it. But then I would have to be sure that I actually have the proof that I'm reaching the minimum criteria, and that you would get from Brainline, as Colleen mentioned earlier. With Term 2 exemption and not writing Term 2 exams, can one still pass grade 7? Not only grade 7, one can pass all the different grades. I think that's why I'm answering all the questions, Liesl. I think it's assessment, assessment, assessment the whole time, so okay. So yes, most definitely, in any grade, your final exam counts the most. In general, grade 12, 75% comes from those final exams, and all the work that you did throughout the year is the other 25. Languages or something with a practical component would have 50 for the final exams, and then a component of 25 for the year work and 25 for the practical work. It is something like in a junior school, then the break is a little bit less. It goes closer 60-40 in terms of the exam 60 and the year work 40. And it makes sense because one actually is looking at a situation where you really want to be able to ensure that this is the child's ability, and it's not rote learning. So exams are not invalid or silly. They are application type exams. That's why setting our exams and our assessments is such a crucial part of what we do. We spend hours with examination papers, changing them from what to why. So it definitely, yes, it is possible because there is enough time to catch up with the work and then to move on then and to be assessed in cycle 3 and then at the end of the year, 100%, no problem. I think the next one that I had marked, let me just see, is there anything I had marked? No, Liesl, is there anything you marked for me? I think Joanne, ek dink ek het jou beantwoord met na matriek gaan studeer, die matriekvrystelling absoluut 100% met 'n groot glimlag. Ja, 'n goeie een daarbey, want sy kan aanpas in beide die werkswêreld sowel as in die tersiêre studies waar toepassing tog is waaroor dit gaan. There was one, we have children grades 5 and 9. Should we start with you from 1 June? What's the process to catch up the previous work? And is it possible to view a few sample lessons before we commit? The sample lessons is a bit of a difficult situation. I'm going to ask Colleen to speak to you about the sample lessons. In terms of joining us, I would, if it was my child, and even if Colleen wasn't paying my salary, I would say join ASAP. Perhaps I can give you an example. We had an ex-employee. She's no longer with us for the simple reason that they have their own home business and the business needs her attention. So she doesn't have enough time for us anymore. And her twins are in junior school. So I think they're around about grade 5, if I remember correctly. And she has already moved them in, enrolled with them with Brainline. That's it. She hasn't thought about it twice. She knows what we do. Her kids are in a very good school. Is 'n Afrikaanse skool toevallig. En sy het hulle beide. Die enetjie het 'n bietjie leerprobleme, die ander ene is 'n baie sterk skranderkind. En beide van hulle is reeds by Brainline ingeskryf en elke keer as ek met haar praat, sê sy hulle floreer. So they're really doing exceptionally well with Brainline already. It's awesome. So definitely I would move them now. And then Colleen, about the sample lessons.
Karen, jy pik al die lekker vrae, sies vir jou. En dan pik jy almal vir jouself en dan los jy niks praattyd vir ons nie. Verseker, kom ons praat 'n bietjie oor sample lessons. I am delighted to let you know that if your child is grade R1, 2, 3, because we are the copyright owners and we are the authors of grade R1, 2, and 3, we will happily supply you with as much material as you possibly would want to see if your child likes it. Daar kan jy sommer vir jou kindjie 'n paar werkskaartjies gee en vir hulle laat weet, hoe is dit vir jou, lyk dit vir jou lekker werkies, dink jy ons moet by hierdie skool inskryf en dan besluit daarna. For grade 4 up until grade 12, we use normal publishers to provide us with study material, and you are the licensed end user. What we can do for you is we can provide you with a complete list of all the books that we do. It's no secret. We select the books to align with the IB curriculum as close as we possibly can. And then, of course, we need those books to be available in digital and or paper format. Ons wil graag hê ons ouers moet kan kies of papier of digitaal. Baie ouers hou nie baie van hierdie tablet ding en laptop ding nie en hulle wil graag 'n papierboek hê en ons wil hulle ook gelukkig maak. So dis beskikbaar in albei. En daar gee ons dan vir julle die lys van die boeke. As julle wil voorbeelde hê van ons assessering, kan ek dit ook vir u reël. Ons kan byvoorbeeld vir julle uit die huidige jaar se assessering kan ons julle voorbeelde hier of daar gee en dan kan ons vir julle wys hoe lyk ons assessering en dan kan jy op grond daarvan besluit of jy hou van die kwaliteit van ons assessering. Ons deel graag met julle die kwaliteit van wat ons doen. Dan is daar 'n paar ander vragies wat ek graag wil vra. Hier is iemand wat gesê, when are the online lessons? How does the teacher teach? What technology is used for the online classes? Whoever asked that question, you are actually sitting in an online class. We are very religious about discipline in our online classes. Who do we allow access to our classes? They have to identify themselves before they enter such a class. And within the class, we would like all the learners to equally enjoy the class. So we are quite disciplined in our classes themselves. Although we allow the participants to ask questions freely, we do not allow them to disrupt any of our classes. So actually, you are living through one of our classes. You have seen how do we screen share, how do we chat to each other, what do we look like in those classes, and that's what you would expect in any one of our classes. All right. Somebody called Smith says, yes, please sample lessons to grade 3 and grade 9. I'm going to ask you, please, send an email to info@brainline.com. I'm going to quickly type in info@brainline.com so that you can simply copy it and then we can send you all of the samples that you like. All right, let's see if I can answer a few more. Are you planning to include coding and robotics in future? Zeldien, ja, ons wil dit baie graag doen. Ons CAT afdeling, Computer Applications Technology, het 'n pragtige onderwyser. Haar naam is Michelle Meyer en sy is geweldig sterk in haar vak en sy wil robotika vreeslik graag inbring. Ons sal dit graag inbring moontlik vanaf 2021. Ons sal kyk hoe ons dit kan inpas. Hierdie pandemie wat ons tans beleef het, veroorsaak dat ons werkslading bietjie hoër is en ons is baie bly om te kan help die leerders wat wel by ons inskryf. So ons wil graag eerder die beste wat ons kan doen in die produkte wat ons wel aflewer, eerder as om 'n klomp alternatiewe produkte uit te sit wat nie in ons grade van toepassing is nie, maar ja, dit is een van ons drome. Ons wil dit bitter graag doen, Zeldien. Kom ons kyk, Darryl, waarheen mail of versoek ons Darryl, info@brainline.com vir die voorbeelde waarvoor jy gevra het. Do you teach in English or Afrikaans or a mix? Don't worry, no apologies. We'll repeat the answers. Don't worry, that's what this is all about. We try to do this bilingually to give all of our learners an equal opportunity. However, difficult subjects such as mathematics, doen ons die klas beide in Afrikaans enkel alleen of in Engels enkel alleen. En die rede daarvoor is, ons vind dat die ouetjies raak 'n bietjie mekaar met tegnologie. Dan het ons enkel alleen vakkies daar, aanbiedinge daarvoor. Kom ons kyk of ek nog so 'n paartjies kan doen. Dit lyk vir my, ons is min of meer deur alles. Daardie enetjie.
Colleen, daar het nou net een ingekom. As die minister nou besluit om alle skole te stop, kan jy hom dalk vir ons antwoord?
Jong, ek weet nie hoe gaan die minister besluit om alle skole te stop nie, maar dit het geen impak op Brainline nie. Dit kan ek vir u ruiterlik nou sê. Die enigste aspek waar ons soos enige ander skool, het sy waar ook al in Suid-Afrika aanlyn of nie, geïmpakteer mag word is vir die graad 12 eindeksamen. So as die minister besluit om daardie eindeksamen 'n week aan te skryf of 'n week terug te skuif, ons weet nog nie wat hulle gaan doen nie. Daar is so baie gerigte en ons steur ons nou nie eintlik aan gerigte nie, want ons het baie werk, ons moet kyk na ons kinders waarvoor ons moet klas gee. Dan is die enigste aspek daar waar ons dalk geïmpakteer kan word. Enige ander grade gaan aan soos normaal. Ons akademiese program is op geen stadium onderbreek nie, dit is op geen stadium verander nie. Ons volg die akademie net soos wat ons normaalweg sou doen. Sal ons kinders dan steeds bevorder na die volgende graad as deel van julle stelsel? Absoluut. Ons kinders word, en ek dink mense begin nou geïrriteerd raak, ek is so geneig om die woord absoluut te gebruik, maar ek raak so opgewonde, want wat kan meer absoluut wees as absoluut? Wat kan meer waar wees as die woord absoluut? Ons kinders gaan normaal bevorder word van een graad na die volgende, en ons het selfs 'n produk wat ons noem report to go. So as 'n leerdertjie, of as 'n mamma of 'n pappa, dat hierdie leerdertjie het so mooi by die huis geleer, maar hulle word nie skool toe gestuur nie, of hulle wil hulle nie skool toe stuur nie. En hulle gaan doodgewoon aan met hulle programmetjie by die huis. Kan hulle vir ons report to go aan die einde van die jaar inskryf, en dan kan hulle bloot die eindeksamen aflê. Nou wat dit doen, is dit gee vir jou 'n waardige eksamen, wat een op homself staan, wat jy dan 'n rapport voorkry, wat jy dan kan neem na die skool van jou keuse. Nou ons hoop, jy is so verlief op Brainline, jy gaan nooit weer weggaan van ons af nie. Maar dit gee tog vir jou 'n rapport wat jy dan kan aanbied by die skool van jou keuse. Ek hoop ek het daardie vraag mooi en goed en reg beantwoord. Liesel, nog ietsie vir my? Anders is dit oor terug na jou toe.
Ek sien nie nou nog iets vir jou, Nicoline. Karen, weet ek wil gou nog 'n vraag net aanspreek. And then there's a question, how long is it for grade 6? I just want to confirm again, I just want to repeat that there are not regular online classes for the junior schools. So for grade 4, 5, 6, and 7, the classes are not regular or daily classes. We actually look out to see what topics the students struggle or the learners struggle with, and then we actually record lessons to address that specific problem area or the difficult part of the work. So there's not daily online classes for grade 4, 5, and 6, and 7. The daily classes start from grade onwards. Okay, thanks, Karen.
I think at the same time, while you were saying that, something came to mind with me now, and Colleen said that we're using the technology we use. So at the moment we're using Zoom because it's nice and stable. We obviously always look at different options to bring the data usage down, but the stability and the safety and the security of the students up. So that's for the moment we're using Zoom. Something I would like to mention though, as a teacher at heart, I'm dying to show you, and Liesel said I'm not allowed to because she said there's not enough time left. So next time I'm going to have it all rigged up beforehand. Typically how we would do it, because I'm a science teacher, so instinctively, you know, there's a bit of it, and I'll never forget in one of my first year teaching classes, a student said to me, "Ma'am, did you study drama?" And I said, "Why?" He said, "We're busy with the atom, and all you're doing is making these shapes with your hands and showing us things that are happening." I said, "Okay, I'll explain it with my hands behind my back." And the response was, "Please don't." So very important is that obviously expression, that type of thing comes out nicely in the languages. But now we look at life sciences, and somebody would desperately like to see what something looks like under a microscope. And these students do get questions with micrographs. They learn about, for example, cell structure or whatever, and then they want to see what it looks like. Would be nice, and then they just see the flat pictures in the box. That's awesome, because the life sciences teacher actually has a microscope, which next time I'm going to have plugged into my computer, which actually then shows them exactly what something looks like. It's got the different magnifications. You can take a screen photograph to show sort of what it looks like. He can explain things on it. He can take that photograph and put it into notes for them. So that type of thing makes it alive. Also, in some of the classes, we try to bring in as much, a little bit of it in the science and so on as well. There's just not that much available yet, but we use the technology available to bring in a little bit of animation as far as we can, and to bring in a little bit of virtual reality, using the Merge Cube, for example, in the maths or science, again, to show them things, to be able to turn the brain around, to be able to turn the heart around and so on, and see what's happening. And then as scientists and so on, of course, for us, very important, if I'm explaining maths, science, accounting, you need to see. It doesn't just help I tell you that v squared equals u squared plus 2as, therefore substitute v with 2. Remember to square it, don't forget. So that's the 4. And then remember that the other object was moving up, put the minus in, but now everybody's lost. But if you can see me do it and you can see colors, it makes such a difference. And that is where typically the maths and the science teachers would be using a writing tablet or perhaps an iPad, which then links to what we're doing now. And because it's not just using the whiteboard on the chat, it's actually very accurate. They can bring pictures in, they can bring questions in of past papers, they can bring graphs in, etc. And they write and draw on these and explain as they go on. So they're lovely, live and interactive, and that's what Colleen actually expects from all the teachers. Interactivity, lively, the kids must want to attend the class. They must want to say, I want to be there because I don't want to miss everything I could have seen. We're very wary of just it being worksheet-based. Worksheets I can send to you via a WhatsApp, and you can complete them. That's not exciting, that's not vibrant, that's not participating. The same with the classes that Liesl has for the social with the juniors, they are interactive. I watched and was part of the interaction with the juniors earlier today, the grade 7s. I couldn't believe that 20 odd grade 7s could be so excited to participate in that class. And that's what makes it real, is that we take online and cloud and we make it real and we make it human. It's not just flat papers. The last thing, there was a question about invigilation during the COVID time and thereafter. At the moment, we're using the parental thing, absolutely yes, depending on how that and the invigilation recordings go and how our moderation of the process goes. That is something that we will definitely consider to continue. In general, it hasn't been that difficult because it's been a neighbor or someone, but the recording part is making it awesome because it means that from my side, it's just so much easier to be able to monitor exactly what is happening. So definitely we will be considering continuing the way we're doing it at the moment. The only option that can never change is the final grade 12s. Final grade 12 examinations in South Africa will always be at a recognized and registered exam center. That exam center can either be one of ours or, in very exceptional cases, in places where you are very far away from one of our centers. The IAB, if we ask them very nicely, and these are exceptional cases, from time to time may allow somebody to write at an alternative IAB school. The problem comes in there with the sending of the papers, as well as from the IB, obviously, as well as these schools very often charge a tremendous amount of money. Right, I think that's about it. I think the last question, Colleen probably typed out an answer for us. So hoping to see you all from my side, hoping to see all your assessments go through us, wishing you all very well, and that's the end of me.
Thanks, Karen. Zaldine, I see that you have raised your hand. If you want to ask your question.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, I was busy typing. I just looked up some reviews on social media and Hello Peter, and I found mixed reviews on Brainline, and some parents had issues with response times and other parents just loved Brainline. And while I understand that every company has its issues, just from personal experience, I tried to phone the switchboard and I had I had to like dial 3 or 4 times back just to get through to someone. And also when I tried to register for this session, I also had a bit of time, so that I had a bit of a problem with that as well. So I just wanted to know, is it because of COVID-19 that you guys have a bit of delay with response time, or you know, do you keep to your set turnaround times when parents raise issues?
Zaldine, if I can answer that, yes, it's partially due to the queries that we've been inundated with. It is not a normal time, can we call it normal times?
Yeah.
And there are issues and challenges that we have to face. And we just need to deal with that as fast as we possibly can. I am not going to employ extra staff because of the fact that the staff that we do have are highly trained. And we will not just push in people and have somebody answer the phone because there's got to be somebody to answer the phone. The people who do answer the phone, our teachers and everybody else, needs to answer the phone in a correct, concise manner and give answers properly and truthfully. This will also pass. All of us will reach the end of the COVID era, I hope, very soon. And then things will normalize. Regarding all the other reviews, as you rightly said, people have issues with companies, but what I can say truthfully is that always we do the very best for our clients that we possibly and humanly can. We can be most of all the best things for most people, but unfortunately we cannot be everything to everybody. What I hope to deliver to our clients is to give them something that fulfills the needs that they have for an online virtual school that fits within the lifestyle of their learners. And to accommodate, and for me it's always been access to education. How do I increase access to education? How do I enable learners to get their National Senior Certificate? Because if you rightly know, remember since 2008, if you were not on a school bench somewhere, you weren't able to get your National Senior Certificate. And that is one of the reasons why Brainline is so active in that sphere. That's our niche market. And that's what we try to do. We try to empathize and involve all of our learners so that in the end, they can walk away with their National Senior Certificate. Having said all of that, whatever is something that bothers our clients, I make a personal attempt, Karen makes a personal attempt to see to it that we try to go not only the extra mile, but to go to the other side of the world, to see to it that that particular client walks out feeling that we have actually done something for them. More than that, nobody can promise. And that's my only promise that I can deliver to you.
Okay, thanks, Colleen. Karen, I see you also raised your hand. I don't think there's anything else that you wanted to ask, Karen Venter. Okay, and then there's another, someone else, I'm not sure what your name is. It shows as user PC on our side.
Ja, goeiemôre. Sorry, ja, dis just James Vos van Rustenburg af. Ekskuus, kan julle my hoor?
Ja, ons hoor jou, James, ja.
Maar okay, ek weet net want ek het begin tik, maar ek sien die vergadering is daarom half aan die eindeskant. Ek wil net vra as ons want ons oorweeg baie sterk om my seun by julle aan te laat sluit. Hoe werk dit? Ek seker daar's vorms so goed en by sy huidige skool moet ons hom maar self daar uithaal of is doen julle dit 'n deel van julle reëlings of hoe werk dit?
Colleen?
Kan ek sommer daar antwoord? Ons gaan net in die geval van graad 12 doen ons moeite want hulle moet 'n eindeksamen skryf, ons moet hulle portfolio's in die hande kry. So ons kontak die skole en ek dink die skole, ek glo die skole sal ons hande vat om daai ouetjies deur te help sodat hulle 'n eindeksamen kan skryf soemloos. Ons moet by hulle rapporte kry, ons moet by hulle portfolio items kry, maar vir die ander grade kan u self net 'n e-pos skryf aan jou skool. Ek wil nie vir u adviseer oor wat u finansiële verantwoordelikhede daar is nie. Ek gaan nie daar krap waar dit nie juk nie, want ek weet nie kontraktuele verbintenis met hulle nie. En ek wil nie graag daar wat soos 'n regsadvies uitgee en op die ou ende gaan iemand my net so lekker vet klap deur die bek gee nie. So, ek kan nie dit sommer doen nie. Daar moet u maar gaan kyk wat is dit wat die kontrak sê met die skool en dien ooreenkomstig optree. Maar ons benader nie normaalweg die skool nie, maar net in die geval van graad 11, van graad 12 benodig ons hulle graad 10 en 11 rapporte en hulle SBA punte. Verder is ons rustig en laat ons dit in die hande van die ouer.
Dankie, Colleen.
Okay.
Ek jy nog 'n verdere vraag, James?
Ja, nee, want hy staan in graad 11, so ons sal dit seker ons sal reël dit dan self, nee.
Ja.
Okay. Dankie.
Thank you, James. Okay, thanks everyone for attending. We have actually come to the end of the meeting, and I know some of you might still have more questions. I just posted there's info@brainline.com. If you have any further questions, you're welcome to send an email. As julle enige verdere vrae het, is julle welkom om 'n e-pos te stuur aan info@brainline.com. Ons e-posadresse wys ook vir julle op die skerm. So if there's anything further, you're more than welcome to send an email and we'll gladly assist. Thanks to everyone who joined in. Baie dankie aan almal wat ingeskakel het. En ek hoop julle het 'n fantastiese dag verder. I hope you have a fantastic day further. Bye.